Hello everyone and welcome back to EverlastCyber. In today's video, we'll be going through the revised practice questions and answers for the CompTIA Security Plus 701. So we'll dive right in. Question 1. EverlastCyber requires hard drives to be securely wiped before sending decommissioned systems to recycling. Which of the following best describes this policy? A. Enumeration. B. Sanitization. C. Destruction. D. Inventory. I'll be going through the options to explain each of them before we reveal the correct answer. Enumeration is the process of listing or counting items. However, it is not related to data wiping. Sanitization is the process of removing data from storage devices to ensure that they cannot be reconstructed or recovered. Destruction involves physically destroying the hard drives to ensure that the data cannot be recovered, while inventory refers to the process of cataloging and managing assets, but it does not relate to data wiping. So with respect to the question that we have, the correct answer is option B. Sanitization is done to protect sensitive information from unauthorized access or exposure before the devices are destroyed or recycled. So this is the process of removing data from storage devices in order to ensure that they cannot be recovered or reconstructed. Question 2. A data administrator is configuring authentication for a SaaS application and would like to reduce the number of credentials employees need to maintain. The company prefers to use domain credentials to access new SaaS applications. Which of the following methods would allow this functionality? A. SSO. B. LEAP. C. MFA. D. PIP. SSO or single sign-on allows users to authenticate once using their domain credentials, and this will enable them access multiple applications without the need to re-enter their credentials. LEAP or Lightweight Extensible Authentication Protocol is used in wireless network authentication. However, it is not related to SaaS authentication. MFA or Multi-Factor Authentication adds an additional layer of security. However, it does not reduce the number of credentials needed to access an application. While PIP or Protected Extensible Authentication Protocol is used for securing wireless networks. However, it is not relevant to SaaS applications. So the answer here is option A. With SSO, the number of login credentials the employees will need to manage is reduced, and this provides a seamless user experience across various applications, including SaaS applications. Question 3. Which of the following threat actors is most likely to be hired by a foreign government to attack critical systems located in other countries? A. Hacktivist. B. Whistleblower. C. Organized crime. D. Unskilled attacker. Hacktivists are usually motivated by political or social causes. Whistleblowers aim to expose wrongdoing, and unskilled attackers, they lack the expertise to effectively target critical infrastructure. Organized crime, on the other hand, they are a group that are known for their advanced capabilities, and they can be hired by foreign governments for cyber attacks on critical systems. So with respect to the question that we have, the answer is option C. Organized crime are well-funded groups, and they have the necessary resources to carry out sophisticated and targeted attacks. Question 4. Which of the following can be used to identify potential hacker activities without affecting production servers? A. Honeypot. B. Video surveillance. C. Zero trust. D. Geofencing. A honeypot is a decoy system or server setup to attract potential attackers and monitor their activities without affecting the production servers. Video surveillance is the use of cameras to monitor physical spaces for security purposes, And while this is useful for physical security, it does not help in identifying attacker activities in a digital or network environment. Zero Trust is a security model that assumes no one inside or outside the network can be trusted by default. Now, this is a strong security strategy. However, it does not identify attacker activities directly. Geofencing involves setting up virtual boundaries around specific geographic locations and triggering actions when devices enters or leaves these areas. With respect to the question we have, option A can be used to identify potential attacker activities without affecting production service. So, honeypots helps security teams to gather intelligence on threats and tactics that are used by attackers. Question 5. Which security technique should a developer implement to prevent a web application form field from being vulnerable to cross-site scripting? A. Secure cookies. B. Version control. C. Input validation. D. Code signing. For this, we'll be going with option C. Input validation ensures that only properly formatted data is accepted, and this goes a long way to prevent malicious scripts from being executed in the application. So, input validation is a key defense against cross-site scripting. Question 6. An organization's internet-facing website was compromised when an attacker exploited a buffer overflow. Which of the following should the organization deploy to best protect against similar attacks in the future? A. NGFW. B. WAF. C. TLS. D. SD1. An NGFW or Next Generation Firewall provides advanced network security features like application awareness and control. However, they are more focused on a network-level threat rather than the application-specific vulnerabilities like the buffer overflow. WAF or Web Application Firewall helps to protect web applications by filtering and monitoring HTTP traffic between a web application and the internet. TLS or Transport Layer Security encrypts data in transit but does not protect against buffer overflows or other vulnerabilities. SD1 is used to optimize and manage wide area network connections. However, it does not provide protection against application layer attacks like the buffer overflow. So with respect to this question, we'll be going with option B. Web application firewall can prevent common web attacks like the buffer overflow, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and many more by inspecting the traffic specifically targeted at the application layer, which is layer 7. So that's why we're going with option B, Web Application Firewall. Question 7. A company's legal department drafted sensitive documents in a SaaS application and wants to ensure the documents cannot be accessed by individuals in high-risk countries. Which of the following is the most effective way to limit this access? A. Data masking. B. Encryption. C. Geolocation policy. D. Data sovereignty regulation. Data masking hides or obscures sensitive information, but it does not prevent access based on location. Encryption also secures data from unauthorized access, but it does not restrict access based on the location. Geolocation, on the other hand, allows a company to restrict access to sensitive documents based on the geographical location of the users. While data sovereignty regulation are the laws governing where data can be stored, but they do not actively control who can access this data based on the location. So we'll be going with option C. Geolocation policy is the most effective way to ensure that individuals in high-risk countries cannot access the documents. Question 8. During an investigation, an incident response team attempts to understand the source of an incident. Which of the following incident response activities describes this process? A. Analysis. B. Lessons learned. C. Detection. D. Containment. Analysis in incident response involves investigating the source, nature, and impact of an incident and to understand why it happened. Lessons learned is a post-incident activity where the team reviews the incident to improve the future responses. Detection involves identifying an incident like through monitoring or alerts, while containment focuses on limiting the impact of an incident like isolating the affected system to prevent further damage. So with respect to the question, the point at which the incident response team attempts to understand the source of the incident is the analysis phase. Question 9. A security practitioner completes a vulnerability assessment on a company's network and finds several vulnerabilities, which the operations team remediates. Which of the following should be done next? A. Conduct an audit. B. Initiate a penetration test. C. Rescan the network. D. Submit a report. For option A, an audit checks processes and compliance, but it doesn't specifically verify that the vulnerabilities were fixed. Initiating a penetration test is getting a deeper evaluation of security, but it does not immediately remediate the known vulnerabilities. Rescanning the network, on the other hand, ensures that the issues have been properly fixed and that there are no new vulnerabilities that have emerged. A report can be useful, but it should follow the verification, which is the rescanning of the network, in order to ensure that vulnerabilities are fully addressed. So for this, we'll be going with option C. After the vulnerabilities are remediated, a rescan of the network ensures that the issues have been properly fixed and no new vulnerabilities have emerged. This verifies that the remediation was successful. Question 9. Which of the following is used to add extra complexity before using a one-way data transformation algorithm? A. Case stretching. B. Data masking. C. Steganography. D. Salting. Case stretching is a technique that involves applying a hashing algorithm multiple times to increase the time required to crack the hash, but it doesn't add extra complexity before the initial transformation. Data masking obscures sensitive data, but it doesn't involve hashing or adding complexity to a transformation. Steganography also hides data within other files or images. However, it is unrelated to adding complexity before a one-way transformation algorithm. Salting involves adding random data to inputs before applying a one-way hashing algorithm. So with respect to the question which says, which of the following is used to add extra complexity, we'll begin with option D, salting. So when random data is added to inputs like password before applying the one-way hashing algorithm, it increases the complexity and it makes it more difficult for attackers to use pre-computed attacks such as the rainbow tables to be able to obtain information. Question 11. A systems administrator works for a local hospital and needs to ensure patients' data is protected and secure. Which of the following data classifications should be used to secure patients' data? A. Private. B. Critical. C. Sensitive. D. Public. Private classification can be used to describe data that is personal and needs protection. Critical refers to data or systems that are essential for operations. Sensitive, on the other hand, describes information that requires protection due to its confidential nature, while public refers to information that is openly accessible and does not require special protection. With respect to the health system, which we see in the scenario, the perfect answer will be option C. Patients' data, like their health records, is considered sensitive information, and this classification requires strict protection to ensure privacy and security, especially in the healthcare settings where we have regulations like HIPAA to enforce the confidentiality of such data. So, patient data falls into sensitive classification. Question 12. Which of the following is a hardware-specific vulnerability? A. Firmware version. B. Buffer overflow. C. SQL injection. D. Cross-site scripting. Firmware version can be considered a hardware-specific vulnerability because vulnerabilities in firmware can directly affect the hardware's operation and security. Buffer overflow is a type of software vulnerability, and it happens when a program writes more data to a buffer than it can hold. SQL injection is a vulnerability in web applications which allows attackers to execute arbitrary SQL commands. Cross-site scripting is also a vulnerability in web applications, and it allows attackers to inject malicious scripts into web pages. So we see that options B, C, and D are not related to hardware at all. This makes our answer option A, firmware version. So if firmware has known flaws, it can expose the hardware to risks and attacks. Question 13. A company's web filter is configured to scan the URL for strings and deny access when matches are found. Which of the following search strings should an analyst employ to prohibit access to non-encrypted websites? A. Encryption equals off. B. HTTP : C. www.asterix.com. D. : 443. For this, we'll be going with option B. This search string, HTTP : can be used to block access to non-encrypted websites because it specifies that the website uses the HTTP protocol, and we know that this HTTP protocol is not encrypted. So in order to prohibit access to non-encrypted websites, this is the search string that the analyst will employ. Question 14. Which of the following must be considered when designing a high availability network? For this question, we'll be choosing two options. A. Ease of discovery. B. Ability to patch. C. Physical isolation. D. Responsiveness. E. Attack surface. F. Extensible authentication. The two factors that should be considered when designing a high availability network are options A and C. Option A, ease of discovery, is crucial for high availability networks because the ability to quickly recover from failures ensures minimal downtime and maintains network operations. Physical isolation is also important to ensure that critical network components are protected from physical threats and that failures in one part of the network does not impact others. Question 15. Which of the following provides the details about the terms of a test with a third-party penetration tester? A. Rules of engagement. B. Supply chain analysis. C. Right to audit clause. D. Due intelligence. Rules of engagement provides the details about the terms, scope, and boundaries of a penetration test that is conducted by a third party. Supply chain analysis involves the evaluation of security of the supply chain and the risks associated with third-party vendors. However, it does not detail penetration testing terms. Right to audit clause refers to the right to review and assess compliance with contractual requirements, but it does not specify penetration testing terms. Due diligence is the process of investigating and evaluating potential risks before entering into a contract or business relationship. However, it does not outline the terms of penetration test. So the answer here will be option A, the rules of engagement. This document outlines how the test will be carried out, what systems can be tested, and it will also specify if there are any limitations or constraints. Question 16. To prevent servers from becoming unreachable after adding a deny any policy to the bottom of the ACL, what action should the technician take? A. documenting the new policy in a change request and submitting the request to change management. B, testing the policy in a non-production environment before enabling the policy in the production network. C, disabling any intrusion prevention signatures on the deny any policy prior to enabling the new policy. D, including an allow any policy above the deny any policy. If we carefully go through the options, after a policy has been added to the access control list, the first thing that a technician should do is option B, testing that policy in a non-production environment before enabling the policy in the production environment. This will ensure that potential issues are identified and that the policy does not block necessary traffic before it can now be applied to the live network. Question 17. Which of the following scenarios describes a possible business email compromise attack? A, an employee receives a gift card request in an email that has an executive's name in the display field of the email. B, employees who open an email attachment receive messages demanding payment to access files. C, a service desk employee receives an email from the HR director asking for login credentials to a cloud administrator account. D, an employee receives an email with a link to a phishing site that is designed to look like the company's email portal. Looking at the scenario here, this is a classic case of business email compromise. This is a kind of attack that involves cyber criminals impersonating a trusted individual within the company, like an executive or director, and they use it to manipulate employees into sharing sensitive information or performing unauthorized actions. Now, if we look at the various options here, the most likely scenario being described here is option B. For the case where employees open an attachment and receive a message demanding payment, that is more of a ransomware attack. But in this case, it's a business email compromise attack. So, option C best fits this description because the attacker is impersonating the HR director, who is a trusted figure in the organization, and is requesting sensitive login credentials from the service desk employee. This is a classic case of business email compromise. Question 18. An administrator was notified that a user logged in remotely after hours and copied large amounts of data to a personal device. Which of the following best describes the user's activity? A, penetration testing. B, phishing campaign. C, external audits. D, insider threat. Penetration testing is an authorized testing of security measures. Phishing campaign is a technique that is used to deceive individuals into revealing sensitive information. External audit involves an independent examination of processes and controls, and this is performed by an external party. Insider threat is the malicious or unauthorized activity carried out by individuals within the organization. So looking at this scenario, the most obvious answer is option D, insider threat. In this case, the user accessed data remotely after hours and copied it to a personal device, which indicates potential misuse of their access rights. Question 19. A company purchased cyber insurance to address items listed on the risk register. Which of the following strategies does this represent? A, accept. B, transfer. C, mitigate. D, avoid. For this scenario, purchasing cyber insurance represents the strategy of transferring the risk. So we're going with option B. By obtaining insurance, the company is transferring some of the financial risk associated with potential cyber incidents to the insurance provider. So this will help them to manage the financial impact of such events in the future. Question 20. A US-based cloud hosting provider wants to expand its data centers to new international location. Which of the following should the hosting provider consider first? A. Local data protection regulations. B. Risks from hackers residing in other countries. C. Impacts to existing contractual obligations. D. Time zone differences in log correlation. For this, we'll be going with option A. Local data protection regulations are critical because they dictate how data must be handled, stored, and protected in different countries. Compliance with these regulations is very essential in order to avoid fines, legal issues, and to also ensure the proper handling of data according to the local laws of the places where this data will be stored. Different countries have varying data protection and privacy laws. So we have the GDPR in the European Union, and this would directly impact how the provider manages data in these locations. Question 21. Which of the following would be the best way to block unknown programs from executing? A. Access control lists. B. Application allow lists. C. Host-based firewall. D. DLP solution. Access control lists controls access to resources rather than specifically blocking unknown programs from executing. Application allow lists can also be called a white list. It specifies which programs are permitted to run on a system. Host-based firewalls controls network traffic but not program execution, while DLP or data loss prevention solutions are designed to protect sensitive data from being leaked or accessed inappropriately. So with respect to this question, we'll be going with option B. By using an allow list, only the applications that are approved will be allowed to execute. So this effectively blocks any unknown or unauthorized program from running. Question 22. Which of the following allows for the attribution of messages to individuals? A. Adaptive identity. B. Non-repudiation. C. Authentication. D. Access logs. For this, we'll be going with option B. Non-repudiation ensures that an individual cannot deny having sent a message or performed an action. So it provides evidence that can be used to attribute actions or messages to specific individuals, and it is often done through mechanisms like the digital signature. Question 23. An organization is building a new backup data center with cost benefits as the primary requirement and RTO and RPO values around 2 days. Which of the following types of sites is the best for this scenario? A. Real-time recovery. B. Hot. C. Cold. D. 1. Real-time recovery is not a standard site type. However, it describes a recovery strategy. Hot sites are fully operational and ready to take over immediately. This is very costly and it may exceed the cost-benefit constraints in this scenario. Remember, in this scenario, cost-benefit is the primary requirement and the RTO and RPO values are 2 days. A cold site has the basic facilities with minimal infrastructure, and to set this up, it will take significant time. You will definitely not meet the RTO of 2 days. A warm site, on the other hand, provides a balance between cost and recovery capabilities. They are partially equipped and configured and allows for a quicker recovery compared to a cold site. On the other hand, it is also less expensive than the hot site. So a warm site can be brought online within a few days, and this aligns with the RTO and RPO of around 2 days. So our answer here is option D. Question 24. Which of the following is the best way to consistently determine on a daily basis whether security settings on servers can be modified? A. Automation. B. Compliance checklists. C. Attestation. D. Manual audits. Automation is the best way to consistently and efficiently determine whether security settings on a server have been modified. Compliance checklists is useful for verifying settings against standard, but it is not practical for daily monitoring. Attestation involves individuals affirming that security settings are correct, but it does not provide real-time or daily monitoring. A manual audit is really time-consuming and it is impractical for daily checks. So for this, we'll be going with option A. Automated tools can continuously monitor and report changes, and it ensures that any unauthorized or unintended modifications are promptly identified. Question 25. A client asked a security company to provide a document outlining the project, the costs, and the completion time frame. Which of the following documents should the company provide to the client? A. MSA, B. SLA, C. BPA, D. SOW. MSA or Master Service Agreement is a broad contract that defines the general terms and conditions for the overall business relationship between the parties. However, it does not include the specific project details like the cost and time frames. SLA is a document that defines the expected service levels, performance metrics, and responsibilities, but it doesn't cover the project scope or cost details. BPA or Blanket Purchase Agreement is an agreement for the purchase of goods and services over a period of time. This is usually used for procurements, but it does not detail the project specifics. SOW or Statement of Work is a document that outlines the project scope, objectives, deliverables, costs, and timeframes. It also details what will be done, how it will be done, and the expected outcomes. So we'll be going with option D for our question. The SOW or Statement of Work outlines the project scope, the cost, and the completion timeframe. This brings us to the end of the practice questions and answers for the CompTIA Security Plus 701. Don't forget to like, comment, and share, and also hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss out on our next video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.